everyone, and welcome to this edition of HDYou Community Stories. I'm Jenna, Executive Director of HDYO, and I am thrilled to be joined with two of our fantastic ambassadors to talk about something that can be a little bit challenging, and that is what it's like to cross in that next step of participating in your first HD event. And just as a reminder, these stories are really told from the perspective of young people for young people in the community because it's through those shared stories that we all grow, we learn, and you can feel like you have a place in this community because you all do. So I'm going to start by asking our ambassadors to introduce themselves. I'll start off with Erik.
Yeah, hi. I'm Erik. I'm 22 and I currently live in Calgary, which is a city in Canada. And my connection to HD is through my dad and grandma, who both tested positive, which makes me at risk. And I have chosen not to test for the time being. And I'll pass it to Charlotte.
Thanks, Erik. Hi, my name's Charlotte. I'm gene positive. My mum has HD. I'm from the UK in the north of England, and advocating for HD for a few years now. But before that, had never met anybody else impacted by HD. So it's really great to be a part of this incredible community.
So when we set this out to the group, you two immediately were like, yes, I want to talk about this. I'm just curious, why? What made you want to share your experiences about participating in your first HD event?
Yeah, I think for me it was because it was such a significant event. Like I, I kind of grew up around HD, but it wasn't really until I was about 16 when we got my dad's diagnosis, but like we knew my grandma had it before. And since then, like was more or less in isolation. Like my family would talk about it regularly, but I'd never really been involved with the community. So when I got to go to the Glasgow Congress, the HDYO held, um, it was just it changed my life so much that I wanted to share that experience with other people.
Mm. I love that, Erik. I actually remember meeting Erik as well at Congress. And it was yeah, it's just so nice that like we're all still like I mean I'm saying I remember it was only a few years ago. But yeah, like it's just like such nice memories. And I think I was so excited to share because it was my first big HD event. I'd been sharing my story online through like fundraising events and things like that. So I kind of had made some online friends in the community before like going to Congress, and like meeting them for the first time in person was so strange. Like I think I just like it was so emotional, like meeting everyone for the first time. And you shared your story. I'd shared my story with so many people and kind of bared my soul to people that I'd never met before. And I think that's the really special thing about the community, like feel really connected to people on like such a deep level. But yeah, it was yeah, I suppose echo what Erik says in that it was definitely life-changing for me. I just remember like after that first day of Congress feeling so full of hope and love, and like just I don't know, it was something I'd never felt before. So I think well, when the opportunity came up to speak about it, I'd shout from the rooftops about it because it was just so incredible. So yeah, definitely an amazing kind of experience.
This is awesome. And you both have mentioned Congress, which we'll get into a little bit, but I'm curious, was that the first HD event you attended, or had you attended anything else, and why or why not? Because I think sometimes there's more local things, there's larger scale things, there's even things online. Just curious.
Yeah, for me, like I said, my family's always kind of been around HD. So there's actually like a local go-kart race that my grandparents would hold as a fundraiser, but it was just for the fundraising. Like I never really talked to anybody else about HD. I didn't really even know what it was until my dad's diagnosis. So going to this event was, I don't know, it was kind of like jumping into the deep end in a way.
So Congress was jumping into the deep end.
Yeah, like you're fully immersed. You're around other people who have similar stories, or I mean,
Yeah.
everybody's story is different, but like you're around people who finally get it. So
Hmm.
I think it was so different. It's kind of incomparable to any of the other events that I was doing before.
Yeah. Charlotte?
I'd actually spoken at HDYO's online conference the or
Mhm.
congress the year before. And as much as that was like incredible and got to meet lots of people and listen to people's stories, I think there's definitely there's a power in meeting people in real life, and like I'm a massive hugger. But obviously, at Congress we had like the colours on and stuff like that. So, if people weren't comfortable with hugging, but just to be able to actually like see people in real life and like share those emotions and I suppose kind of understand different people's perspectives and yeah, just see people in real life and so many people from different countries in one place. That to me like blew my mind that we'd all gathered in this one kind of location, but like actually people came with such a different experience of different cultures, different backgrounds, different upbringings, different kind of professions, from like scientists to community members, and yeah, it was something I'd never experienced before. So I think it was definitely a good first event because yeah, it was kind of in a full immersion into like everything that you could ever need to kind of deal with a life impacted by HD.
I think it's also interesting because thinking of your generation, because I'm older, but this age group, you all were so impacted by COVID in different ways. And this was often the first time people could even attend an event for that reason, because it's not like there aren't things going on in their home countries. It's more of the fact of the timing of everything and what worked out. And I talk about this a lot, that sometimes there's that safety in strangers, and the fact specifically with Congress of having 350 people around you who just get it and not having to kind of wear that HD badge by yourself, I can imagine was really overwhelming and empowering. But that does happen too as well with local events. It's just different ways. And I think you all benefited from that experience with Congress being not only your first big event, but after a long time of being really in solitude, from that like physicality of it.
Yeah, I think it was exactly like what you said. Kind of like this, you feel safe because it's somebody who you don't know necessarily. Like I
Mhm.
was really surprised with how easily I was opening up to people who I had known for less than a day. And I'm telling them things that like I hadn't even had the courage to tell my family or like my partner about. So it was really nice because no matter what you're going through, there's such a big group of people and everybody has different stories. So you're really able to find, like, no matter where you are in your journey, you're able to find people who get it and who can kind of help walk you
Mhm.
through to the next steps.
Yeah. I'm going to pick on you, Eric, for a little bit because I know how you got to Congress. So, for those of you who don't know, and again, we're picking on Congress because these are the two events that both Eric and Charlotte have decided to talk about as their first event. But you didn't really come seeking out to attend Congress. We offer scholarships, and we had a last minute sponsor, and I was reaching out to the Huntington Society of Canada for some young people who maybe would be first time event participants in something like this, and you were kind of voluntold to come. What were you hesitant about? Was it just not knowing about it, or was it just kind of not thinking about it? Or, what ultimately made you say, I'm going to take this big leap?
Yeah, it was my I think my biggest hesitation was the timing of it because I got the call. I had just finished a midterm because it was close to the end of my semester. I'm in university, by the way. So it was, yeah, having to take the 4 or so days off of school to go out, I think was my biggest worry. Another thing, I have a brother who's 2 years older. So when I got the call, the first thing I did was I told him, he's like, I also got a similar call, but like it sounds like it's one or the other. So we had a big long talk, and at the end of it, we decided that we would split it and then we would just cover the other half. So that helped a lot. In getting me out there was I felt like I kind of had to do it to bring him out because I had been involved with like the Huntington Society of Canada runs like an online support group.
Mhm.
So I feel like a lot of my motivation was like getting him outside of his comfort zone and bringing him to something like this. Uh, So yeah, a little bit hesitation from the time, but bringing my brother to the event kind of outweighed everything else. It was just incomparable.
Charlotte, what made you take that big step? I know it was less of a travel concern for you, but still a big step all of its own.
I think for me, it was it. I'd just been tested actually. So I'd just got my positive test result. Like I think it was like 2.5 weeks before. And I kind of knew that when I signed up for Congress. And I think in my head I was like, is that too close? Like, is it going to be too much? And I was like, mate, I think I might just, I might really need that kind of, HD family support. I think I need to be in a room of people who just completely get it, and I don't have to over explain my emotions or over explain how I feel about things. But my family also traveled to Glasgow with me as well. So they also came to Congress, which was amazing because my dad works in the health sector, and found it really helpful from a professional perspective. And obviously my mum has HD. And was really kind of actually quite reluctant to go. I think she was really quite anxious about there being a lot of people and being surrounded by people she didn't know. But I think it actually changed my mum's life as well. I would go as far as to say that, because she'd never ever met anybody outside of our family impacted by HD as well. So, and she was able to attend, like they were able to attend the parent group, different kind of support groups at Congress. And I think as a family experience, it was really incredible. And I think that definitely made it a lot easier as well.
Hmm. Yeah, thank you both for sharing that. That's really interesting perspectives. And it's, I've known you now for 3 years, so it's always so hard to remember back when and how things got started and everything. This was such a pivotal part. I'm curious, how did you feel leading up to it, either of you? Was it something that, Charlotte, you had a very different experience leading up because you had just received your genetic testing results. Erik, you had a lot of irons in the fire at home and traveling with your brother. What were some of those feelings that you were going through leading up to the event?
Yeah, I think it's so interesting because they were kind of both sides of the spectrum. There's like the pure excitement of I get to go to a new country, I get to travel with my brother. I know just talking to kind of the people from the Canadian Huntington Society, I knew what to expect from it in terms of like there's going to be 300 people, a lot of young people, like you're going to find a community. And then there was also like a lot of kind of anxiety and worry about it. Like I didn't know, um, like there was all the worries around traveling, but for the event itself, I didn't know like how welcoming it would be. I was a little bit hesitant because I knew that like it would involve me having to share about HD and my story. But when I actually got to the event, all of those were kind of just wiped clean. Like I walk in the door and Jen is tracking me down and she's like, "Oh my gosh, here's a huge hug." And like
I did
here's
not
kind
follow
of
the color protocol of touching.
yeah. And like I don't even think I had a badge on, and you're just like, "I recognize you from like we were talking so much over text." I'm like, "Oh my gosh, this is crazy." Uh like the Jenna from the email is talking to us right now. So I'd say like any of my worries around the event, like being pressured or anything going wrong at the event, were just kind of like wiped clear as soon as I got that big hug. And it was like, okay, you're in a safe space. You don't have to share anything if you don't want. You can just like sit and hang out. I was really lucky that I found people that I got along with well and I could share because that made the experience a lot easier. But yeah, any of my worries were like they were just up in my head, and I don't know, I'm just happy that I ended up taking that step.
Of that.
I think I would echo that, like kind of similar emotions. I think I was quite anxious leading up to the event. Like, it is kind of daunting, like talking about HD to people you don't know. Like I'd shared with like I say, met people online prior to the event, but actually speaking to people in person and meeting people in person is very surreal and it can be really anxiety provoking. But again, quite excited. I'd never been to the city before, despite living in the UK. But I think, I think I described it to someone like when we were like one of the evenings that we were out on Congress, like that we were almost like living on another planet when we were actually in Congress, because it felt like this really kind of like, it was just like such a surreal experience where like you were in this world where you'd never really been before, and like everyone understood, and I don't know, and everyone, it was, there was just so many good vibes, and like I think a lot of people might have got emotional over the weekend, like I know I did, but like in the best way, because you were like releasing things, like Erik said, that you'd not kind of talked about before, or you were listening to people, or if people don't necessarily feel comfortable sharing, then it's just kind of taking in that information and just kind of feeling that, like the love of people, and feeling like the outreach of people wanting to support us if they weren't necessarily impacted. So yeah, I remember walking in as well. I genuinely don't think I'll ever forget that. And like seeing people on the welcome desk and being like, oh my goodness, this is just going to be so good, like good vibes right from the start. So yeah, definitely those kind of anxious emotions and feelings definitely go away as soon as you arrive.
Yeah, it's kind of just like making those little steps, those baby steps to get, if you're traveling on the airplane, to the airplane, getting there, checking in, and all of those things matter. And that's why training volunteers, if it's not staff, on how to welcome people is so important. And that, needs to continue happening even after the event for people who are helping and supporting HD community members, because you never know if that's their first engagement at all with the professional or in the community. And you don't want them to have that bad experience. But you're so right. And we talked about this a little bit at camp about how you're in this safety zone when you're there, because you don't necessarily have those outside influences that are in your day-to-day life. And so it is overwhelming, but it's also a bit of a respite to be able to say what you want to say and get what you want out of it, even those families where you maybe don't have that freedom to talk about it internally. You have that ability to share, again, with that safety of stranger feel. Did you was there ever a moment as you were gearing up for this event that you were like, what am I doing? Why am I here? I can just turn around right away once I get there. I don't know that I want to go even check in. I just want to hang out and explore. Did you ever have that feeling of second thoughts?
I Yeah, the week leading up, I started like stalking HDYO on Instagram, and then I was seeing all the ambassadors. I'm like, oh, maybe I'll get to see this person. And I think I wish I didn't do that in a way, because I let it get in my head, and I'm like, oh, all of these people, like they're so outgoing and they're like so well spoken about HD, and I don't think I really like fit in that environment. So I was second guessing myself a lot. Um, I remember thinking, even like walking up to the building, I'm like, oh, this is going to be such a tiring day. Like, it's going to be so long, and I'm going to be like stressed out of my mind at the end of it because there's so much going on. And yeah, like, I don't know, all of that was just kind of, it was made up. There wasn't really any ground to support it, because it's such a dynamic space. Like if you want to be super outgoing and say hi to everybody and be like that golden retriever at a dog park, you absolutely can, and there's space for that. But I found like the first day I took it a lot slower, and I found some people who they matched my energy a lot better, and I stuck with them through that day. And like kind of over the next few days, you get out of your shell, and like you find your spot in the community really fast, which was nice.
And I suppose for me, because I'd just been tested, like I think I was going through a real wave of emotions. Kind of, yeah, I was on a real roller coaster ride of like life not feeling real, like, just lots of different emotions. And I did, I maybe did at times think that actually, is this going to be too overwhelming for me? Like, and I think, so many times in like a person's HD journey, like everybody's impacted so differently, but HD can feel so overwhelming. And like various points in our journeys can feel, kind of like, okay, how am I going to get through this? This is really difficult. Like I can't see a way through. So I think, even if it's not testing, it might be that you're going, like, your loved one or you are going through something really difficult at the point of an event or congress. And it might feel like it's just a bit too much, but actually I felt like it was exactly what I needed, and I could take out from it, what I needed at that point, and I could kind of pick and choose what I wanted to do. There was no pressure to attend a talk if I didn't want to. Like, there was a space that I could go to if I needed to take some time out, or if I just, if I didn't want to attend things in the morning and I didn't have to. Like, there's absolutely no pressure, and I think that's what's really good, because there is so many different things to choose from. A lot of the time there's kind of multiple things going on at the same time. But even if you're at like a, not HDYO Congress, but like even at a normal event, I think it's okay to kind of, allow yourself before you go to the event to say, I'm going to take the time that I need, like during this weekend or during this event. And I think kind of just setting that standard for yourself before you go, and just kind of, being kind to yourself is really, really important. And I think like me doing that allowed me to, enjoy what I wanted to, but also take time when I needed to.
Yeah, I think I love what you all said. And I think, one, a little bit about what Erik said, I feel like that could be almost imposter syndrome of, do I have to act like this? These people are so outgoing. Is that how everybody is going to be? The answer is no. At any event, you're going to have a variety of different personalities, a variety of different willingnesses to share what's going on and how they're impacted. And all of that's fine. And that plays into what Charlotte too about taking breaks. No matter where you are attending events, no one is going to get mad at you for needing to take a step back. And oftentimes you'll have the ability to do it within the event, whether it's, spaces for relaxation or one-on-one counseling, or just areas to kind of still be a part of it, but maybe put your earbuds in and, reset or whatever that looks like. So all of that's completely normal. And for every person who's out there sharing their story, there's probably 10, 15, 20 who aren't there, who don't want to share. And they're still soaking up and getting a lot from the event, no matter where you go. And that's all great. So I think there's a lot of, what's the right word? Kind of self-imposed pressure just from trying to fit in or feel like you have to be a certain way, but it's really, you just have to be
you. Yeah, I think that self-imposed pressure is something, it's I don't know if it's just HD community or what it is, but I feel like I've never really had the same confidence in being able to just say, like, yeah, I'm doing good, but I'm just tired right now. Like, I'm totally fine, but I just need to take a few minutes to go for a walk and stuff like that without people worrying about you, or it's like like pulling you out of your emotions. Like, it's a really safe space to process. I think like Congress had quiet rooms and like a drawing space where you could just go do kind of like color in the lines and stuff like that. And I use that every single day. It's just a way to recharge so that I could show up for the events that I wanted to with my full energy instead of just dragging myself throughout the day.
Yeah, because it is exhausting. It's emotional. You're there's the physical exhaustion of it, there's the travel, there's the pieces of it where you're sharing a lot about yourself and hearing other people's stories, and you do have to really practice self-care. Um, what expectations did you kind of have for, again, we're talking about Congress right now, but even just any event? Have you walked in having very specific expectations, and what was that kind of like? I know we talked a little bit about some of the nerves, but even just takeaways or worth or what have you leading up to the event.
Yeah, I'd say for Congress, for me, it was hard to have expectations because I'd never been to a similar event like that, where you get all of the different aspects. Like, you're learning about the research side, but also like how to take care of yourself and your family. And then there's the social side to it. Like, it's such a like an all-encompassing event. So when I was picturing it in my head, I think I was way, way, way off. but I was expecting like 20 people sitting around a room, kind of like a therapy circle, talking about our feelings. And I was hit with this, like, I don't know what the right word, but like this grand conference. It was very, I don't know, it's different than other conferences. Like I had been to conferences through work, but this one was more, I guess, like opening, and you're expected to kind of make it your own. Like I didn't have the pressure that I felt like I should be doing certain things. It was just
Mhm.
however much I wanted to take on it each day. That's what I was ending. That's what I could do.
Mm. I think I expected it to be not smaller because I think I maybe anticipated how many people were going to be there, but maybe I didn't envisage so many people. Um, but yeah, it was just like so well planned. I think I told you this so many times, Jenna. Like it was just so well executed, so well organized. Like everything just ran so smoothly. Like I genuinely like obviously, Jenna, you have a lot to do with the planning. So like you like it was incredible. Like everything just ran so seamlessly. And I think it was just yeah, just very, even though obviously like HDYO is a non-profit, like it was just so yeah professionally executed, like it was yeah, I don't know how to describe it. And then obviously the evening do, like it was so much fun, everything had been thought of, like the dance, even like the right down to the spaces that we were in, and I'm not sure what they are in Prague, but like the where Ashley did a speech was like this absolute, like
Mhm.
was it the Parliament building, I think.
Yeah, it was like the local magistrate of Glasgow. Yeah, which we can't do in Prague, which is a bummer, but that was really cool.
Yeah, like just things like that you would never ever anticipate as like
Mhm.
part of a like non-profit conference, but everything was just yeah, like so wonderful. Like each part of it had its own unique kind of, this experience is incredible. Um, so yeah, just yeah, I think that was yeah for me really good.
I'm glad you thought
Yeah.
everything went without a hitch because that's not what happened, but at least we had the facade of it.
I would never even, honestly, it was amazing.
Yeah, hearing you talk about that reminded me. I was actually, I don't hanging my head almost like walking to the airport because I thought the conference would be so heavy. I thought, um, yeah, I thought it'd be like kind of a therapy circle. I definitely did not think I would be walking out of there with like all of the ambassadors that I'm now friends with, or even just like people who I still regularly text weekly, just catching up. It doesn't even have to be about HD. Like, I didn't think that there'd be as big of like a social aspect to it. I thought it would be more educational and like kind of, here's what HD is. Here's like all of the stuff you probably know already if you've been in the community for a while. So I didn't really know what I didn't think of how much that social side would actually
Mhm.
impact me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There's
I think it's easy to feel like you're just going to sit in a seat all day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. There's definitely a lot of time built in to like interact, like you said, like to not talk about HD as well. Like there were
Mhm.
like loads of, I think I met loads of people and like didn't necessarily ask their story, or like kind of outside of the conference and the evenings and things like that, which was really nice to get to know people on a personal level
Mhm.
and yeah, not talk about HD all the time. So yeah, it was really great.
Absolutely. What were some of the most memorable parts? You talked a little bit about the Ashley's speech the first night, but what were some of those big takeaways that it could be either from the content, meeting other people, what have you? You don't have to keep going in order either, Charlotte. If
Yeah.
you have something that you're
Okay.
excited to say, just jump in.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, it was just meeting like so many like different people. Like meeting people the first time that I'd spoken to online. So, I have a lot of friends in the community who, I mean, I made loads more friends in the community, but I maybe knew like two or three people,
Mhm.
or maybe actually know through the ambassadors a few more. But like meeting people in person, but also like meeting people from different countries, I think. one person like sticks in my mind who like I made a real connection with that I would have never met in any other kind of situation. And I think, like Erik said, like before, like it's like people that you stay in touch with, and it's like you make those like lifelong connections with people who you genuinely become like your really close friends. And I think for me, like I don't know how many other situations in life, or actually any, where you would like make so many friends like in such a short space of time that you like that you continue genuine connections with for like such a long time afterwards. So it's like not just you don't just have a support system on that day or those few days. The support system then continues. So yeah, I think it was those light bulb moments of friendship for me. And also meeting like the team, the HDYO team, like you, Jenna, in real life, for the first time. And yeah, just hearing just so many things. Like genuinely, when you asked me when you asked that question, I started smiling because I was like, there's so many things. I think hearing some incredible and meeting some incredible like kind of famous HD researchers and like people in the community. That obviously like Charles Sabine was there. People that I'd kind of listened to on YouTube or like on different things, and seeing them in like real life, like almost like HD celebrities. So yeah, it was really cool.
Yeah, I mean, like Charlotte, you said it all when it comes to that social side. I think that was what I took away the most from it was all of the people that I got to meet. In terms of any like particular events, I remember it was the last day and there was a social event held in kind of like an abandoned uh was it a railway system? Like it was just
It was underground tunnels. Yeah.
yeah, so like there was a dinner, but after that they cleared all the tables off and they had a massive dance floor. So you had like 100 people from all these different countries. They're all like relatively 18 to 30-ish, just full of energy, hitting the dance floor. And then all of the other people, like researchers and people on the board, and like they all come down and they're so like multiple generations of people just like doing the Macarena and just sharing this kind of like I don't even know if you could recreate something like that because like the location and the everybody's kind of pent up emotions from being at a conference like this for a few days and then everybody just lets it out on the dance floor. It was like something from a movie. So I think about that a lot whenever I'm down. I'm like, oh, remember that time like this guy who could have been my grandpa was just killing it at the Macarena. That was pretty good.
Be your grandpa.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's funny. That makes me giggle.
it was such a good night.
Well, we're talking a lot about some of those core memories that we have that are more on the I want to go back side of things, but it's also a really heavy conference. What were some of the difficult times that you experienced? Because it's not an easy thing to go do. What were some of the challenging moments that you had, if you're willing to share?
Yeah, I think for me it was kind of everything outside of being at the actual conference was a lot
Mm.
for me.
Mhm.
Like I was in the middle of a busy semester, so I'm getting back at like 1 in the morning from these evening events and working on my assignment for like 2 to 3 hours, getting like 5 hours of sleep, and go into the 8 a.m. session in the morning. So I think just managing all of that, and I think what Charlotte said before about kind of setting those barriers with or those um, like setting the
Boundaries.
boundaries with
Mhm.
yourself to like help manage your time because I felt like by the last day um, I didn't have the same amount of energy or engagement that I did in the first couple of days. I think a big part of it was just like managing sleep and your
Mhm.
stress levels and even just like decompressing and talking about the day with somebody kind of outside of a social setting. So
Mhm.
Mm. I think for me, it was, sometimes listening to people's stories and like, it being quite emotional for me. I think, as people impacted by HD, a lot of us have been through a lot. And I think sharing those experiences and listening to those experiences can often be quite emotional and
Mhm.
sometimes quite draining. So I didn't necessarily find it hard, but I think it was something I'd never experienced before. in to the kind of same extent, but I think, you know, the Congress was really good in that. I think, was it Dr. Bonnie's talk? You know, we were kind of equipped at the Congress to kind of deal with that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, how we hold those emotions, but also the like post-Congress blues, which you know, you never really understand until you go and you experience this incredible high and these, you know, you obviously have this incredible time, and then obviously you kind of have to go back to your normal life and go back to, you know, your home and whatever else. So I do think the sessions were really great in terms of equipping us and like empowering us to look after ourselves, and also yeah, just like you think about our mental health, but it can be really draining.
Mm-hmm.
But also, you know, you get a lot from it in the same way. So sorry,
Was it weird at all for you to go through all those emotions with other people around? Because I feel like when you're doing some of those emotional journeys, you're by yourself. You're kind of at your own time. You don't have people staring at you. Well, here you're in this larger group, and people are either watching or empathizing or are part of the discussion. How did that feel for you, Charlotte?
Yeah, I think it's just like nothing you've ever experienced before, and I think I think I described it as like, I think I did like an Instagram post after the first day, and I remember like writing it, and I think I remember it feeling like a giant, like virtual, not virtual, but a giant hug from like however many different people in one room. And
Mm-hmm.
it's like, it's absolutely like, honestly, I can't, like, speaking about it, it's honestly hard to understand, but even for me, but like, it's like a shared, you share such a like a pain, and you share such grief, and like there's people in the room who have been through like the worst, some of the worst things you've ever been through in your life, like they've shared those experiences with you. But then you're also like sharing that, you're also kind of like lightening the load. um but yeah, I think it's like an oxymoron, if I can say that, like
Mm-hmm.
it's so good, like because we're obviously all there because we've been through really difficult things, which is really rubbish, and you kind of don't want others to have been through that. But also, like, it's so positive that we're all there, and how we're kind of building this community on the back of kind of the pain and the fear and the grief. And yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's a big hug, but obviously you need a hug for a reason. So
Mm-hmm.
it's sometimes tricky.
Mm-hmm. Eric, did you ever experience any times of that where a session maybe made you think about something in a different way that was a little bit emotional? Was that kind of hard to process in front of other people, or did you feel like you had the space when you needed to?
Yeah, I found myself, I had a big stack of sticky notes in my pocket, and I would just write down like, here's the session, here's the thing that I want to think about, and then I would just put it
Mm-hmm.
back into my pocket because I felt like I didn't have the time to actually like sit through all those things. There's so much information, especially having it been like my first big event. Um, there was so much that I felt like I wanted to properly process all that. I actually spent most of the plane ride back just like flipping through these sticky notes and like just letting myself just sit with those emotions. So in a way, I almost didn't process them at the time, but I made sure that like I knew it was going to be really impactful. So I tried uh, to like save it for later almost.
It's such a good
Yeah,
idea.
yeah, I like that a lot. Made a note. Um, so that sounds like there was the roller coaster of emotions. What was it like leaving?
Yeah, I had a 16-hour flight back, more or less, with layovers. I don't think my eyes were dry the entire time. Um, I definitely like cried and slept at the exact same time, which I didn't think was possible. Uh, yeah, it's like it's such a surreal experience. It's kind of like you're stepping into a different reality for a minute and
Mm-hmm.
going back from that, like you have all of these positive experiences and getting to connect with the community. You almost feel like you're mourning the event that you just left, which feels really
Mm-hmm.
weird because you have nothing but like positive memories about it. But you know that like real life, you can't replicate that as much.
Mm-hmm.
I think something that made it a lot easier for me was talking really openly about the event to my friends and
Mhm.
family. So like typically when I get back from something big like that, my answer is short in like 2 sentences. But this
Mhm.
time I made sure if somebody was asking me about it, I'd be like, okay, do you want the like 2 sentences or I can go 5 to 10 minutes? And usually people are really enthusiastic about the longer version. So that actually helped me kind of go through and process a lot of the stuff that happened. And I think that made it really easy to get back into things after.
Mhm.
Mm. Yeah, I think similarly, Eric, like I just kept looking at videos and photos and yeah, feeling quite emotional about the weekend and everything that had happened and everything that I'd learned and like all the hope that I had. I think at the start of the weekend I like didn't necessarily know much about the research. I had like a brief understanding of what was going on, but I didn't know the extent to it. So I felt really hopeful about that and kind of really positive in a way that I'd never felt before about kind of the future of my own future and like the future of the community. But also like really missed everyone. I think like when you like
Mhm.
spend the whole weekend with like these newfound friends and these newfound kind of connections, you come back home and to your friends and it's like, yeah, like Eric said, you just can't replicate it. But I think I spoke about the Congress so much. Shared things on social media, with to a point of feeling comfortable, and also like you make those connections. So I think it's really great that you can kind of reach out to people to say, "Oh, I miss Congress," like, and then
Mhm.
someone's like, "Same," like, "Oh, what was your?" And then you kind of reminisce a little bit. But I think the support from the charity was great in terms of like reaching out, but also like I would like advocate for people not being afraid to reach out, like to
Mhm.
like either people who've been to the same event or like your support systems to say, oh, actually, like I'm not feeling great. Like I feel like I've hit like Congress blues. I think we called them, or event blues, or
Mhm.
and just kind of talking through those emotions and being really, like Eric said, open about things and um yeah, and I think going to events really kind of gives you the skills that you maybe like weren't aware that you had before. I don't think we like don't have them, but I think you kind of like uncover bits about yourself that you weren't aware of, or like learn new things about yourself and your strengths. And yeah, I think it just gives you that confidence to be like, yeah, I can, like, I really can talk about this. And like, I saw them speak at Congress, and that
Mhm.
means I can do that. Or I shared this with that person at Congress, that means I can share it again. Or I text this, yeah, and it just fills you a lot of confidence. And yeah, I don't know, it is a bit of a crash afterwards. But yeah, I think just grateful that I could message people and kind of say
Mhm.
and share pictures and share funny moments, because there's definitely like some funny moments as well. Yeah, it was good.
Mhm. When you got home, how did attending this event or any event kind of shape your comfortability with HD, any leadership roles, any future involvement? What was that like?
Yeah, I think I never really talked to anybody uh, about HD until Congress. And then everybody was like, oh, well, I saw you did this Instagram post. Can you tell me a bit about like why were you in Scotland? What's going on with all this stuff? And I think because you're talking about it so much at Congress and you feel so safe, I could kind of take that and apply it to my life. Like I don't think I've ever talked to as many people about HD besides at Congress. And then coming back, I'm like, oh well, this is still uncomfortable, but I know it's safe. Like I know people aren't gonna look at me differently once I tell them this or anything like that. I think it also I just had such a positive experience that I felt like I wanted to do more in the HD community, like seeing how many cool and like really energetic people are in the community doing like things I didn't even think were possible. And I don't know, it just kind of lit a fire under me to want to get involved. So then I reached out to Jenna about the ambassador program and got more involved with my local chapter. It just kind of, yeah, it was like a 180 on my relationship to HD after Congress.
I think for me, very similarly to Eric, I think it kind of just spurred me to want to like really like advocate more. Like I was not only like was obviously did it give me the confidence, but hearing other people's stories and other people's experiences, like I wanted to be like, no, like there's I'm not just thinking of me and my family now. Like I had so many different people in my mind when I wanted to kind of raise awareness or like, if we did fundraising. And I think also like my dad's like me and my dad have done raised money for HDYO like since then, and I think you just have this you have such an image of where the money is going, that it really drives you to want to like do some really positive things from that. But the analogy that I have in my mind was like it almost like I kind of was recharged and like really wanted to kind of like power forward and yeah, just really raise as much awareness as possible. And I tell everyone about Congress, like in if I'm meeting people for the first time or speaking to people for the first time about HDO or not even about HDO, about HD, and like people are like, where's the support? What support can I access? And it's like, please come to Congress. Like honestly, I just want everyone to experience it because yeah, and I think people will understand if they like reach out and do that. But I think any event, like I've been to a few events since I've been to some events here in the UK with the UK charity, and you do get that kind of similar feeling of connection. And obviously, it's on a different scale because obviously Congress is like a bigger event, but you connect with other people and you learn different things about HD as well, and you kind of compare your experiences to other people's and maybe learn things from other people and how they've dealt with their journey as well. So yeah, it definitely kind of spurred me on to want to get more involved in things like research and things like that. And it did. I've taken part in research since. So
That's awesome. No, and I think that that's exactly right because HDYO Congress is its own beast of itself because it's international. It's also just designed for young people. So it has a different scope, but those country specific, those local events are so important because you have different needs throughout this journey. So I don't think you can get all of your needs met from one event ever. And then also your perspectives change. Even when we hosted our first camp back since the pandemic this August, and we had people who participated before the pandemic and applied to come back again. And they said how different the experience was. And some of them said it was a better experience the second time. Um, and they kind of equated that to the camp structure. And I pushed back on them and I said, but it also has maybe, but also what were you ready to listen to and be a part of at that time that you went to your first camp? Where are you now? And if you were to go to the same event in 2 years where everything was the same, I would say you would have a different experience because your experiences can change rapidly, being impacted by Huntington's disease on top of life just happening, that you need all the support, all the education, all of the love around you no matter what the event is, because you never know what you're more ready to accept and be a part of and what questions you even have until you start to talk to other people.
Yeah, that was so well said. I was just nodding along the whole entire time. I'm like, this is exactly what I was saying right before. Like, I just went to a Canadian Huntington's event this weekend. I was telling Jenna, like, I don't know, like I thought it would be like the last one that I went to, and then because that was my expectation when it was different, because I'm changing as a person too. Like it was overall, it was a really good event. It just wasn't what I was thinking it would be in my head. So then, yeah, just everything you said, I'm like, that is spot on. You're changing every single time too.
Yeah, it's so much. And, someone might be going into an active caregiver role where they would consider themselves at their previous event kind of on the outskirts or not needing to be as much. And that perspective is very different. So coming into, a topic about caregiving, you have a completely different view where it may not have been a priority to participate in. So get out there and do lots of stuff is basically what we're saying, because it really does support you. And you may be answering questions that you never even know you had. All right. So what do you want to say for people who are thinking about going to an event, are nervous about it, whether it's Congress or other things? What would be your last piece of advice for the community?
Charlotte, do you want to go first?
Yeah, no problem. I think for me, and I think I've spoken about this before in that there's I think there's like a famous quote that, you know, I feel like there's nothing good happens in your comfort zone, or I
Mm.
mean, obviously that's maybe a bit too far. There probably is good things that happen in your comfort zone, but I think, there's so much amazing stuff that happens beyond like those things that you're a bit worried about or you're a bit fearful of. And I think taking that leap, as hard as it is, like that will be the hard part, is actually like Jenna said, like getting to that first step, or actually getting to the conference and stepping through the doors, or stepping through the doors of an event, will always be the most difficult part of it. And I think, yeah, it honestly just life changing in all the best ways. I yeah, it's just, yeah, incredible. And I think being vulnerable can, build such meaningful relationships. And as much as it feels uncomfortable sometimes to be vulnerable, there's loads of incredible people on the other side of that, like waiting to be your friend, or waiting to give you support, or teach you something new, or kind of just ready to, yeah, just like add to your life with so many positive things. And then you can give to other people in these events without even realizing, like you might, like we've spoken about, not feel like you in terms of if you're like introverted, or like your preference isn't to socialize with people, or like there's so much you can give to the community as well. Like it's not just necessarily sharing your story, but even just your presence, I think is so incredible, and yeah, wanted. And there's a whole community of people waiting to be there for you. So yeah, just do it. That's what I would say.
Just do it.
Yeah, you say exactly what I was going to say. Like you have to be brave. And I think for me, I probably still would have gone if my brother wasn't going, but I think having a support person would be my biggest, or a support network around you would be my biggest thing. Because I felt like I was going to the conference not just for me, but to like help support him. And I was bringing back information. Like I gave a PowerPoint presentation to my parents when I got back. I was like, look at all this stuff we've learned. Isn't this great? There's so many more people out there who are going through the same things we are. So like doing it, if you don't want to do it for yourself, then do it for the other people around you who can benefit from that. Yeah, and then having that support network around you just helps kind of give you that courage in a way. Like you're not doing it for yourself anymore. It's part of a bigger picture.
Yeah, I mean, we had people coming in. We had someone come in from a Middle Eastern country, and her best friend came with her because it's just needing that support system, because she didn't have the openness to be able to talk about it within her family in a way that this event really kind of promotes and tries to encourage. So I think that's so right on. Is when we think about this with everything, who's going to be there at home when you're coming, when you're going back? Who can you talk with, whether that's professional support worker, friends, loved ones, whatever that looks like, HDYO, it doesn't matter. Just making a plan for yourself, because one, they can be your biggest cheerleader, and two, they can help challenge you when you get back to just listen and celebrate your achievements by attending, or help you process as you come home. Any last thoughts before we wrap up?
I'd say if somebody's hesitant about going, um, that's probably a good sign that you just have to take that extra step, because I think even just having the courage to consider going to something if you've never been before, there's a lot of people that's not even crossing their mind. So the fact that you're interested in it already says a lot, and you might just need that extra little step or that support network around you to help you take it.
I think as well, if you're thinking about it and you're not sure about things, just never be afraid to reach out, whether it's like HDYO Congress, or whether it's like a local event, like, entities and charities and nonprofit, and or whichever, kind of event you're going to, are always happy to answer questions. Like I can't imagine anyone who's running an event that wouldn't be happy to kind of alleviate any anxieties that you have about various different things. So yeah, just drop someone a message, or if you know someone that's going, like ask them how they feel about things, and don't kind of stew over things or worry about things that it could be answered by a question. So yeah, reach out.
Love that. Well, Charlotte, Eric, thank you so much for spending some time with us and sharing your perspective. We've done a couple of these now with HDYou, talking about getting involved and seeking support and help, and they all come together because seeking support is actually also attending event, and getting involved is also attending event and also seeking support for yourself. It's not just what can you do for associations and organizations, it's how we can help you and support you throughout your journey. And we love for you all to participate in any way that works the best for you. So thank you so much to both of you for sharing your thoughts. And you all out there, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to HDYO. We're only an email away, but also your local associations are there for you too. But just it's important to know that you have a community around you who loves you, who understands you, and who's willing to help in any way that we can. Thanks so much for watching, and we hope you have a great day.